The bouquet arrived mid-afternoon, a sudden sunburst on the kitchen table. Peonies the color of shame. Eucalyptus trailing like a polite apology. She looked up from the mug she was rinsing. Eyes bright in that practiced way that says, I wasn't expecting this, and then softer. You shouldn't have. My name was the only plausible sender in the room. Who else would know she liked peonies? Who else would pick eucalyptus for its scent? I smiled, because smiling is still an automatic muscle in us when small courtesies pass back and forth. I took the card and read it aloud, half teasing. For you. Hope this brightens your day. XO. She laughed and tucked the card into a bud vase. See? Thoughtful, she said. She kissed my cheek like a punctuation mark and said she had to get to a meeting. The apartment smelled like flowers and the faint, guilty hum of something not quite right. A week later the bouquet was a memory in petals, the stem stripped and composted. The card, however, remained flattened inside the junk drawer where we keep receipts and spare keys. That evening she left early, promising a late return for an appointment. The word appointment had the new texture of an alibi. I didn't say it aloud. Instead I shelved it, like a book you return to the wrong shelf because you are testing whether someone will notice. At midnight my phone buzzed with a picture. A selfie of her under a streetlight, cheeks flushed, hair catching the light like stray gold. Bar with the girls, the caption read. The same practice voice, casual, bright. The group chat chimed with laughter. It would have been ordinary if ordinary hadn't become a thing I could no longer rely on. In the months before, we had invented small dissonances, missed calls, late texts, a new silence where we once traded small domestic updates. I told myself not to be paranoid. Paranoia is a rodent that nests in the corners of thoughtful men. But small things accumulate. She'd once commented about how nice it was when someone surprised her with flowers just because. My memory of that sentence kept returning like a footnote. I dug out the card that night and smoothed the creased paper with a thumb. The handwriting inside was looped and neat, familiar in a way that made a body clench. It read, Can't wait to see you again, D. The single initial landed like a weight in my palm. Denial is persuasive. I told myself initials were common. That D could be anyone, Dan from the dry cleaner, the dentist who'd called last month. The brain is a factory of excuses when it wants them to exist. Still the card's neatness nagged. I turned it over, examined the envelope for a stamp, a florist sticker, something that would anchor it to an origin. There was a small sticker on the back, Lux Blooms, and a phone number. The shop was downtown, trendy and anonymous, an outlet for people who prefer the language of curated gestures. I called the shop the next day with the casualness of someone asking about tulips. A girl answered, bright and direct. Yes, we can do same day, she chirped. I described the arrangement casually, noted the time and the delivery address. Her voice shifted, the way it does when customer service becomes a plot. We keep records of our deliveries for 2 weeks, she said. Do you want me to check? I did not want, and yet I did. She asked for the date and waited. Yes, she said finally. We delivered to your address last Thursday. Card signed D. Would you like to file a complaint? My voice stayed level. No, I said. I just thanks. The name was a small, precise razor. I could have stormed into the room and demanded who D was. Fury is the automatic thing we imagine, cinematic and loud. Instead I did something quieter and more deliberate. I browsed through old photos on her phone a week later, an act I had sworn I wouldn't do, and paused at one. A rooftop party, the light catching her hair. A man beside her with a jawline I'd seen in the card's initial all along. I traced the outline of his face with a thumb I didn't trust. The contact list bore the same initial. D Project. I felt the floor of the world tilt. When she returned that evening she noticed the vase withered and politely asked if I wanted to go out. I said no. She asked if I was tired. I said I was thinking. The sentence is pragmatic, blunt, and in that bluntness it is also honest. Her face changed in a line like a fault. What's wrong? She asked, with an inflection that tried for concern but landed on the old, precise calculus of rehearsed innocence. I placed the card on the table between us like a slab. Her eyes moved to it the way a diver's eye moves to the surface. For a moment she looked like someone thinking of the right lie and then, in the smallest slip of muscle, remembered the truth. What is that? She asked. You told me the flowers were from me, I said. The words were not an accusation but an observation, an arithmetic of things better when simple. The card says otherwise. She swallowed. The room leaned in. She had rehearsed for explanations. Work stress, a surprise from a friend. But rehearsals have edges that catch. Her fingers found the rim of her glass like a person holding onto the final piece of furniture as a ship lists. I didn't want to worry you, she said. It was harmless. Harmless, she said. The word sounded small and deliberate. Harmless is the lie, I said. Honesty is the harder thing, but it keeps us from walking off the cliff together. She tried to tell me the story. Dee was a colleague who'd offered sympathy during a rough patch, who'd said things she liked hearing. He'd sent flowers to be kind, to be supportive. She'd told him to sign only his initial because he was shy. She painted it in soft brushstrokes. No hotel stops, no stolen afternoons. Just a man who paid attention. Details splashed against the story like rain on a window. Friendly lunches, late emails, a familiarity that had seeped into the unremarked corners. The thing about evidence is that it rearranges possibility into probability. The card was not a confession, but it was a hinge. It swung the door open to other moments. Texts that had once seemed innocuous, a name she used that hadn't included me. The way she sometimes looked across a room as if she were cataloging an option. If trust is a ledger, the flowers were a small deposit that did not reconcile the accounts. My revenge, when it arrived, was not a spectacle. It was a slow, surgical recalibration. I stopped being a background character in my own home. I refused to be the default. No more leaving the last cup in the sink for her. No more clearing the living room at midnight. I reclaimed small freedoms. An evening with friends, a weekend canoeing alone, the quiet pleasure of making a coffee for no one but myself. The acts were banal and therefore effective. They removed the scaffolding on which the lie had been easy. She noticed. People notice when the thermostat of another's attention changes. She tried apologies that sounded like drafts. Warm, lacking substance. She tried explanations again, this time with the urgency of someone bargaining for salvage. I listened and catalogued. There were truths in her admissions, loneliness, the slow erosion of attention in a life that had been comfortable, and there were deflections. The line between culpability and context is porous and always inhabited by both.